Summer is coming, and that's why I'm wearing glasses, because summer is probably one of the most exciting parts of the year. I'll just put it up here like this. No, but for real, summer is super exciting. That's when everybody goes down to the beaches, they go swimming, and we're sitting here coding. Oh god. What's up, my gorgeous friends on the internet? In this episode, we're gonna create a REST API with authentication. This has been a huge request from you guys, so this is me giving some love back to you for all you have done for me on this channel. So we're gonna cover a lot of things. We're gonna look at how to store users in the database, hashing passwords, JSON web tokens, private routes, and how am I gonna cover this in a half-hour video? I have no idea. Let me go get some Red Bull, okay? So get yourself ready. Unfortunately, I don't have a magic trick for you guys today because I have a weird cough going on, but just the cards. Hey everybody, okay, let's get going. So I just have an open empty folder here. We're starting absolutely from scratch. The first thing you need to have is Node installed. So if you don't have, just go to nodejs.org and install that sucker and you should be good. Okay, so first of all, we need to open up a terminal up here and we just say npm init. You can do like this with Y if you want, and that's just gonna create it. Or optionally, you can just hit enter like me because I'm a masochist. Okay, so we have a package.json here, and all this does is it holds all of our packages, so the things we install off the internet. And the way we're gonna do this is when we have an issue, that's when we're gonna install a package. We're not gonna go here and say 10,000 packages because it's gonna be confusing and we're not gonna understand what's actually happening here. Okay, well, the first one we're gonna install is Express, and that's just gonna handle our routes for us. So npm install Express. Hit enter, and actually another one that we're gonna do is nodemon, which is just gonna restart our server. So we're gonna do npm install, and I'm gonna do -- save dev for this one, nodemon, so it's not actually included in the main packages that are actually gonna be sent to a server. So there we go. We are still waiting for this one, which is fine. And until that, we can just go up here, create a new file, index.js, hit enter. This is gonna create us a new file. Perfect, so once this is installed, we can initiate our first server. So we can say const, we can get that express by setting it equal to require express. All right, then we say const app and set that equal to the express, and we invoke this function. Okay, so then to actually start up the server, what we can do is we can say app.listen, and we can give it a port. Now we're gonna customize this a bit later. And the second option you can give here is if you add a comma, you can just say console log up and running, just a string. I mean, I guess we should say the server here so we know what's going on here. So this is just a callback function. Once the server actually starts, then we are running this thing. Perfect. Very nice. Okay, so let's create our routes. Now, the way we're going to do it is we're not going to create everything in here because it's going to be crazy and it's not going to look nice. So highly recommend you to go up here and create a new folder called routes. Okay, and we add it in here. We're going to create a new file up here. And let me close this. We don't need you now. New file, it's gonna be called auth.js. Okay, these are gonna be our authentication routes. Perfect, so let's open that up. And the first thing I wanna do is create a router and set that equal to require express.router. And this is just kind of the same thing that we're doing here with app. So you can do app.get, or things like that, but rather than doing that, we're doing their router.get. So when we export it, here, module.exports, we can set it equal to this router, okay? And we can kind of separate our routes from here and just import the actual middleware in here. If that sounds confusing, don't worry, it's gonna make sense in a bit. So for now, let's just create a empty router here. Let's do router.post, and this is going to be when we go to register, okay? And we do a request response here. And for now, all I'm going to do is say response.send, so we can send back a message. And this is going to be register, okay? Actually doesn't do anything. So now we can have multiple routes in here, and at the end, we can just import everything in here. So let's import. I'm gonna actually add a comment here, import routes, okay? And in here, I'm just gonna create a auth route and just import this, okay? So we're gonna say require, and all I'm gonna do is say / navigate to the folder and get this file. Perfect. So now we can actually create some route middlewares. So to do that, we can just go down here and we can say route middlewares. And here, all I have to do is say app.use. And when we navigate to API/user, then I want to run this auth route. So all this means is that this is always going to have this prefix. So everything in the auth route is going to have this prefix. So what this actually means here, when we do a post request to /register here, it actually means that we have to go to API user /register, okay? And we're gonna see that in action. So if we do another router here, .post, and we navigate to login, well, this is actually, when we make a post request, this is actually gonna be to localhost, like whatever this is, like that, and then it's gonna be /API/user/login, okay? But everything is prefixed in here already, so we don't have to add it in here. All right, so we're gonna have a login here, but we're gonna take care of this later. So I'm just gonna export this and make sure everything works. All right, let's open this up. And before we actually start this up, we're gonna go to package.json, delete everything in here and just add a start. So when we start up, we can run nodemon and just say index.js, okay? So by adding npm start, this code is gonna run in here. So let's try npm start, hope for the best. All right, there we go. As a pop-in, server is up and running. All right, so what we can do is we can open up Postman. There we go. You can download it if you want off the internet. You just search Postman and you should get this. All right, this is gonna take a bit to load up, which is fine. Let's close this. I don't know what that is. Close everything. Okay, so when we go to API/user here, /register, all right, so make sure this is correct. And when you put the post, because we're doing post in here, all right, so when we do that, and when we hit send, we should get register, all right, so it works. We're getting back this message. All right, so this works. Okay, we can minimize this and we can take care of it later. So let's connect to a database because we cannot register or do anything because, yeah, we need a database. So to connect to a database, we are gonna go to mlab. Not mlab, actually they changed and they connected with this. So it's mongodb.atlas. So let's go to Cloud MongoDB Atlas here. You can register up an account, and once you register, you can create a new cluster. So let's build a new cluster, and this is gonna be free, so don't worry. And we can do AWS here. Sure, North America, and make sure this is the free. So if we open the cluster tier up, we have the base price, which is free forever, which is perfect. Cluster name, we're gonna leave it like that, that's fine. And we're gonna create a cluster here. I said cluster too many times. All right, this is gonna take a bit of time, but until then, what you can do is you can go here to the security because we need to do a few things. All right, so who can access this database? I'm gonna delete this. You can go here and you can add a new user. You're probably gonna have the user. I believe the default one is the one that you're signing up with mlab, but if you wanna add another one, you can just add a new user. And here we can delete everything. And let's say the new user is gonna be Rhino11. Okay, and the password, let's add the password Rhino11, and this is gonna be dev-ed. All right, so make sure to remember this one, and let's add and we can also add privileges here. Read and write to any database is gonna be fine, and we're gonna add a new user. Perfect, so we have it in here. dev. The second thing you want to do is go to IP whitelist, and you're going to add IP address here, and you're going to click allow access from anywhere. Either that, or you can add your own IP address, which I have here. So I'm not sure. I think there was a button here, but I already added it. All right, actually the thing is not finished, so let's wait a bit. Yeah, the cluster is still 7 to 10 minutes. All right, that's fine. But I had a problem where it didn't load up. So what you had to do is you have to include your IP address here so you can make requests. Yeah, I think it shows up here. So let's take a look at this when this actually loads up, and we'll figure it out together. So let's go back here. And the thing we need to do is we need to create a model. So a model of how our data is going to look like. So how our user is going to look like, which basically is going to be like a username, an email, and a password. Okay, you can add more, but we're going to keep it simple. So to create a model and to actually make Mongo also very easy to use and connect to it and everything, we're going to install a package called mongoose. So let's close up the server. You can hit Control-C and is it closing up? There we go. And we can npm install mongoose here. Hit enter, and now we wait again. Oh, it's so much. Sometimes you just have to wait for things. Let's take a look back here if this is deployed, overview, and it is. So there we go. It's deployed. Let's take a look at the security again, IP whitelist. All right, so my IP address is here apparently. Let's take a look here. Yeah, I think if I remove this, then let's try to remove this. All right, they're deploying the changes. Let's add a refresh. Okay, let's add an IP again. And there we go, add current IP address, confirm. Because I was confused, I was bamboozled why that wasn't showing up there. So there we go, that's all you have to do. And to connect to it, all you have to do is go here to connect. All right, and we're gonna say connect to your application, and you're gonna get this string. All right, we're gonna leave this open. Let's go back to our VS Code. Since we have our mongoose installed, we can npm start. We can start up the server again, and let's connect to it. So up here, we're gonna import that mongoose package. So const mongoose equals require mongoose. Why I don't get autocomplete is beyond me. All right, there we go. And to connect, let's go up here. I'm gonna add connect to DB, and all we have to do is say mongoose dot connect, like so. And here we can pass in that URL. So let's go back here. We can copy it, paste it in here. We actually need to add it as a string. And the problem here is that we need to replace this password, and we have dev, which is fine. And in here, I think my password I put was Rhino11. All right, and we're gonna change this. We're not gonna leave this here because that's not a good practice here to leave your password and everything show up, so don't worry. And the second argument is gonna be just an arrow function. So let me bring this down here, just an arrow function, and we're just gonna console log connected to DB. All right, hit save, and this is actually gonna throw us not an error, but a warning that they started using this new URL parser here. So you can just copy this object from down here. Don't worry too much about this, and just paste it here right after your string and right in between the arrow function. Okay, hit save. Let's see, do we get the connect? And yep, we have the connected to DB. Okay, now let's actually let's not keep this in here because we want to move it so our password is protected and everything. So how can we do that? Well, we can install a package that is gonna do exactly what I told you. So let's close this up, and we can install the package called npm install.env. If I'm not mistaken, let me take a look, let me make sure. Yes, .env. And what this does is we can create an environment variable, and we can store the password in there. And when we push up the code to GitHub or something, our our thing is not going to say our password there. And when you push up to things like Heroku, well, you can inject that environment variable in Heroku. So Heroku will give you like a dashboard and you can add it in there, okay? So once we have it installed, all we have to do is just create a new file on the root. So we're gonna call this .env. And in here, we can add a db connect and set this equal to, and I'm just gonna copy everything from here and the string, cut it out and paste it in here. Okay, hit save. And now we cannot use that anymore in here. So let's import that .env, const.env is equal to require.env. Perfect. And now to initiate it and to make everything work, all you have to do is right up here, just say .env.config, like so. Oh my goodness. I don't know why my autocomplete is not working. Hit save. And now, since we have this .env config here, to access everything in this .env file, all we have to do is say process.env. And then we give it the name that we gave in here. So db connect. Okay, that's it. Hit enter. And that's it. Yeah, we should be up and going. We can npm start this. We can start up our server. Perfect. We can minimize it. And let's create our model that we've been talking about. So we can make a new folder. We can call it model. Hit enter. And we can create a user model. So user.js. I'm doing it with an uppercase U here. Okay. So we can import mongoose now. Require mongoose. Autocomplete is back. Welcome. And then we can create a schema that basically just represents the model of our user. So we can say const user schema. We can set that equal to new mongoose.schema. And this is going to be an object. So like that. And here we can just define the properties that we want to have. So I want to have a name, and this is going to be an object. And in here I can define more properties. So this is going to be a type string. Is it going to be required? It's going to be true. And also you can add that it should have a minimum of 6 characters. Okay. We can add a comma here. We can add an email, and this kind of pretty much repeats itself here. So type is going to be string, required is going to be true, and the max, we can also add the max, can be 255. Okay, so the maximum amount of strings, or we can just add a minimum as well. Minimum can be 6. I'm not sure what the minimum is on the email. We can add a max here too, because your name is probably not 255 characters long. And the password is going to be of type string as well. And here required is also going to be true. All right. And the max here, I'm going to actually add a bigger number, something like 1024, because we're going to hash this password. And out of the top of my head, I'm not sure how long that is, but just to make sure, we're going to keep this fairly long. Okay. And the minimum is going to be at least 6. So that's it. Let's also add a date here. And the way you can do that is just type, this is going to be type date, not string. And you can also add a default with date.now. Okay. Perfect. And here at the end, we can just say module.exports and set this equal to a mongoose model. Perfect. And here you can give it the name. So this is going to be our user. And what schema should it use? Well, it should use this user schema that we just created. So we can just add that in there. Perfect. And now we can use this to add and register users. Okay. So remember, these are the properties that we need to fill out: password, email, and name. So we can go back here and we can actually try this out. So we are not using it in here, but we are going to use it in the routes here. So let's import this model that we made. Let's go back here to user. Perfect. And let's do const user model is equal to require // and this is // because we're navigating out one folder. We're gonna go to model/user. All right, so we have access to the user. Perfect. And now let's try to make a request here. So rather than sending this back, we're gonna delete everything in there. And the thing I'm gonna post is, let's keep this simple for now. The thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create a user here, all right? And this is gonna be equal to new user. So we're gonna use that model that we made, all right? New user, and in here, you would pass in the data you wanna submit. So we have a name, all right? This is gonna be coming from the request body here. Request body name. And we have an email, request body email. If you have trouble with this, I have a REST API video and also a Node video that you can check out if this is a bit confusing for you. But I'm trying to quickly get through this. Let's password request body dot password. So, and what this basically means with the request body is when you send in here, when you send a JSON object in here, well, this is actually coming from the request body. So in here, if I have, let me get rid of this. So if we send a post request and I have a JSON here with a name of Ed, all right? So this would be accessible on the request body name, all right? All right, so this is everything we do, but the problem is we won't be able to read it from here when we post. So we actually have to use something called a body parser. So let's go back to index.js and add that body parser. So here we are actually connecting to our database. Here we do our config. So let's actually do, after we connect to our database, we import the routes here. Let's move this up, kind of to clear everything up here. So we have our routes, we have our config, our DB, and down here we can have our middleware. Okay, and here we're gonna say app.use, and we're gonna use express.json. That's it, and now we can send post requests. Good, perfect, hit save, and perfect. Now we have our route middlewares here as well. So everything is kind of cleared up and organized in here. So we can actually kind of try this out. So we just create a new user here. And after we create that new user, we can save it. So the way we can save it is we can add an async call here because we need some time until we actually submit things to the database. And down here, what we can do is we can add a try catch. So try, we're going to try to submit a user, and then we can catch some errors just in case. So in case we catch an error, we can respond with a status code of 400, and we can send our error back. All right, and here in our try, we can try to save the user. So let's say const saved user is going to be equal to await user.save. All right, so we're taking this user from up here and we just call the save. That's it. That's everything. That's literally it. And we can even send a response. So res.send our saved user here, so we can see it on the screen. So let's give this a shot. Let's see how this works. So let's go back to Postman here. So when we navigate to API user register, make sure you have post here selected. Make sure to also have, let me remove these because we're going to do this a bit later. Make sure your content type is application.json, or you can select it here. So on this drop down, so raw and application.json. Application.json here, okay? And now we need to have a name here. So we can do name. This is going to be dev ed, for example. We can have an email that's going to be eddierhino@yahoo.com. I'm not sure what I have with rhinos today. And the password for now is just going to be something extremely password like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. And when we hit send, well, we get back this data here. So take a look. It generated the date, the ID, and everything. And let's actually take a look if this actually submitted to the database. So let's close this up, hit refresh here in our Atlas in MongoDB, And let's take a look at our server. We can go to the collections and let's pray for the gods. And there we go. Look at that. We have users and we have one user with deved and everything is super cool. However, we have problems here. Well, the first one, we shouldn't store passwords in here because that's not a good idea. The second problem would be that we are not doing any validation for now. Like let's say the user has only 5 characters in the passwords, or that's not an actual email. All right, so we need to also add that. So let's get validation out of the way first, and then we're gonna take a look at how we can hash passwords. All right, let me scroll out here. We can leave this here for now, or we can actually delete it by clicking that, and perfect. So the package we are gonna use to validate our information that we're getting from a user is something called joy, and it's actually very fun to use. So we are gonna say npm install at happy and then /joy, like that, with an I. Okay, hit enter, and while this is installing, actually let's just wait. How have you been? Everything's going good? Okay, all right. Okay, let's restart the server, npm start, close up the terminal. We don't need it now, and let me kind of show you how it works in here, and then we're actually gonna separate it in another file. But for now, validation, I'm gonna put it up here. And the first thing you wanna do is just import joy. So I'm gonna just import it here for now, because again, we're gonna kind of separate this into another file. I'm gonna say columns joy equals require happy joy. Woo, awesome. Okay, so what we need to do is, you know, the way we kind of created a schema with what kind of information we have in our user, well, we kind of can create a schema here with validation, okay? So this is just gonna be a schema. I'm just gonna name it const schema, that's fine. And this is gonna be an object here. And then you can just do name again, and then password, and all those wonderful things. So we can say name, and we can set this, we can give it a value of joy. So we're gonna use this library dot, and you have a lot of different cool methods here to validate. So one would be string, and you invoke it like that, and then you add dot, and you can add multiple things on top of it. So maybe the minimum character can be 6 on this one, and it should also be dot required, like so. Okay, that's it. You can add a comma, we can do email, we can say joy.string, so this is a string as well. The minimum should be 6, and dot, this is required as well. Make sure to spell that correctly. And you can also add a dot email, so it makes sure that this is also an email that we're working with. Perfect. Let's also add the password, which is going to be joy.string. Okay. And the minimum is going to be 6 again, and it's going to be required as well. Perfect. So that's it. You just create a schema like so. And in here, what you do before you actually submit everything, you can validate the response that you're getting from the user. So in here, let's validate the data before we make a user. Okay. And the way we do that is we just say joy dot validate, like so. And the data that we're gonna give it is the request body, okay? Because that's where we pull all the information from. So request.body, and the second argument is gonna be, so if we add a comma here, it's gonna be the schema that we just made. And that's it. That's all we need. Perfect. And what this is gonna actually throw us back is an object. So we can store this in an object here. Let's just say validation is equal to joy.validate. Okay, and I'm gonna just console log this out a bit, not console log, just X this out so we don't actually submit a new user, just so I can show you what this does. If I just say res.send validation, just out of curiosity, hit save, and let's take a look here in Postman. So now I'm just gonna keep the same information, that's fine. And when I hit send, so this is what it actually sends us back. It's gonna send us back an object with an error, and it's going to send us back a value with all the information. However, if we do have a problem with validation here, this error is going to show us multiple information. So for example, look, I'm just going to delete everything here, just going to leave 1, 2 in the password, but we know that it should be at least 6 characters long. So if we hit send now, you're going to see that, look at that, we get this big object back, and we have an error, and it's going to say here in the details, it's going to say message password length must be at least 6 characters long. So there we go. Look, it does it for us automatically. How cool is that? We can add this back, and look, if this is not an email, so if I delete at yahoo.com and hit send, it's gonna say email must be a valid email. So as you can see, it works perfectly, and that's what we need. All right, so but I actually don't need this value and everything else in here. I just need this error. Okay, that's the thing I want to pull out. So what we can do is we can actually deconstructure this. We can delete validation and just add curly braces and say error, and that's just going to pull out the error. And we can access that message if we want via validation. So this is going to be error now, error.details, and it's the first array, and it was message, I believe. Hit enter, let's take a look. So it was error.details, and it's the first object here in the array, and dot message. Okay, I'm just pulling that information out, so this one. And now when we hit send, I messed something up probably, and oh no. All right, cannot read property details of null. So, all right, it's my spelling, 100%. Details, error.details. Oh, let's take a look at this again. Oh my goodness. Hit enter. Send. All right, so let's remove this so we have something going on here. All right, so it's error.details, so that's correct. Let's try to pull this out. Hit enter. Let's take a look again. All right, so the first one is going to be message. So it's going to be the first object in the array. So I'm just going to add the 0.message. All right, let's hit. There we go. Okay, so we pulled it out. We have password length must be at least 6 characters long. So there we go. That's our response. Perfect. Let's add this back. And once it's okay, we're not going to get anything because we haven't responded to this. Okay, well, that's cool. So now we can just add this back, delete this, and what we can do is say if there is an error, well then I don't want to post this anymore. I don't want to get all the way down here, right? If we have an error, there's no reason to make a new user. So what we can do is we can say if I have an error, all right, from this joy error, if we have an error, then what we can do is we can just return and send a response with a status of 400, which just means, all this is, by the way, res.status 400. It just means that it's a bad request and it's just not good, okay? And you can add this at the beginning of the response. So response 400, and then we can just send back a message. And what message should we send back? Well, the one we did back there. So it's gonna be error details.message. So this one. And that's it. All right, so in case we have an error, this code down here is not going to run anymore. So we can uncomment this like so. We're going to keep this, and that's fine. All right, everything should still work the same. Let's go take a look here. Let's just make this a not valid email. Hit send, and yep, email must be valid. So let's add another one here. Let's do test boy. That's valid. And we're going to change the password here and the name. It's going to be John Snow with Traversy Media. All right, that sounds fun. I would watch that. Hit send. And as you can see, that makes us a new user. And we can see that going on here in Atlas. So hit refresh. Let's take a look. While it's loading here, we have users and we should have both now. So John, actually we deleted the other one, but here we go. We have this one and it's fine. So the validation is working, and Yep, I'm happy with this. However, what if I want to do a login? Because we're going to eventually have a login post here, down here. And I don't want to make another schema here and the file is just going to become super crazy. So what we can do is we can kind of separate the schema and the joy from here and kind of add it to its own file. So to do that, we can just go to the root for now and just create a validation.js. Okay, just like that. So super simple. And all we can do is we can kind of just copy things from here. So the import is going to go here. So the joy. We can also get the schema here and paste it in here. So that's fine. And we can just kind of wrap it in a function because we might have multiple schemas depending on what we want to do. So this one is probably going to be a validation, a register validation. Okay. So we can just create a new function here. So register validation. And we can set this equal to an arrow function here, and we can just add the schema in here. Perfect. And at the end, what I want to do is in here, see, we don't have this anymore. This joy.validate. And we want this request.body, which we cannot get. And the thing we were going to do is we're actually going to pass a parameter in here, and then we're going to import everything in here, and we're just going to use this register validation and just pass in the request.body. Okay, so what we can do here is we can actually get rid of everything. Okay, get rid of everything. And we're going to validate this in the function here. So let's just do joy.validate, validate, like so. And the first argument is going to be the request.body, but since we have everything separated here, we cannot add it. So I'm just going to add a parameter of data that we're going to get. So data, and the second one is going to be the schema that we're using here. And that's it. And the thing I want to make sure is that I return this function here, this validation. All right, hit save, and that's it. We can just export this. So we can go down here, and we can do module.exports.register validation and set this equal to register validation. The reason why I'm doing it like so is because we might have another one. So we might have another one, which I'm going to actually do now. So we're going to do a login validation too. And it's kind of going to look like the same. So that's why I'm kind of setting it up now. Login validation. All right. And this is going to have just the email and the password. Okay, we're not going to be needing the email and the username. So that's it. I'm just going to keep everything the same way. All right, and I can copy this and paste it in here and just change this to login validation. All right, login validation and login validation. Hit save. So now we have both of them. Okay, and now to use them, it's actually super simple. We can go up here. We deleted everything. I'm going to keep this one, this error with the response. That's fine. However, this is not going to work anymore. We're going to delete this. Here, we're going to import the validation that we're going to use. So go up here, and to import it, all we have to do is say const. I'm going to set require the file ... And I don't think I'm getting autocomplete, but we can import it like so. Register validation. Let me just make sure I don't misspell that. Require. Yeah, for some reason I'm just, there we go. And we can import that validation file. So if I want to import another one, I can just add a comma here, and then I can add the login validation or whatever I need. For now, let's just import the register validation. So to use it, remember, all we do is we just separated everything in here in this function, and we just need to pass in that data, that request body, and that's going to do everything for us, and it's automatically going to return the validation. So in here, now to just validate this, all we have to do is just do the same thing, const error that we did, and set this equal to register validation, and just add that request body, and that's it. Everything should still work the same. So we can actually take a look at this and make sure everything is okay. And here, let's delete some of the password and hit send. And Yep, there we go. Everything still works the same. So we have validation, and we also added it to the login, and we separated everything, so everything looks nice. So perfect. Now let's go to the other issue, which is gonna be that we need to make sure that when we register, we don't register again with the same email, because we don't want to have two matching identical emails in our database. So to do that, that's very simple. So here we do the validation. Here we create a new user. All right, and here is where we save, and here is where we catch the error. Okay, so after we validate the data that we're getting from the user, here we are checking if the user is already in the database. Okay, and the way we can check that is fairly easy. We can create a const email exists and set that equal to await, and we're gonna check our database to see if our email already is there. So we can go to the user model, all right, so the model, and we can add a find one. All right, and this is going to take an object, and we can just kind of filter out and check if the email is equal to our request body email. All right, this is just going to do a check in our database to make sure that we don't have that. And if we do have that, then what we can do is say if our email exists, all right, email exists. If our email exists, then we can just return a response with a status of 400 and send. We can send back a message. We can do email already exists. And again, since we added a return and a response and send, this is not going to run anymore. So it's going to check through this first. If everything is okay, we don't have any errors, it's going to go check our database. If we don't have any errors, then it's going to go down here and create the new user. Hit save, and let's take a look. Now, if we try to submit this with the same email, so with test boy, and let's hit send, and hopefully, yeah, there we go. We have email already exists, so we cannot create a new user. If we could do test boy toy, then hit send, that should still create us a new user. There we go. Perfect. So we got that working. Now, the problem that we still have is that our password is blank like this, and it's not hashed. So we should hash the password always. Okay, we shouldn't store passwords in plain text. That's a big no-no. So we can close up the server here, and the package that we're going to use is something called bcryptjs, and it's going to do exactly that. It's going to take our password, it's going to throw in an algorithm, and it's going to change it and add different characters to it, and it's going to make it a mess, so we cannot tell what our password is. And the only person that knows what the password is bcrypt. So if we're going to do a comparison with it to kind of match it when we're going to do the login. But let me not confuse you too much here, and let's just install it, and we're going to see how it kind of works. So let's do npm install bcryptjs and hit enter. All right, so there we go. Now we're going to wait a bit, and the thing we're going to do with the hashing is going to be up here. Okay, so right after we check our database as well, hash the password. So the thing we need to do is we're going to generate a salt. And I know that sounds kind of complicated, but don't worry, it's not that complicated. All we have to do is say create a const and create a salt and set that equal to, we're going to say await bcrypt.gen salt. We're going to add 10 here. I'm going to explain what this kind of does. Let's also import bcrypt here because I forgot. Const bcrypt is going to be equal to require bcrypt.bcryptjs. Okay. And all this does is this salt that we're creating is kind of a mess of a string here. And this, when we generate the salt with 10, it's kind of the complexity of the string that gets generated. And we add this 10, which is the default, I believe. And yeah, let me just show you. all right, because that's a bit more simple. So we do the salt here, and then we create a hash. So we can say const hash password. We can set that equal to await. So again, we're doing this await because this might take some time. bcrypt.hash. All right, and here you would add the password. So request.body.password. All right, and then the salt. All right, so the salt basically combines with your password, and it's going to create a mumble and a mess of a text that only bcrypt can decrypt it. Ha! All right, so after we do this, so we just generate a salt, and then we hash the password with the salt. I should have said it like that. It's just way more simple. But now we don't add the password here from the request.body. We just add that hashed password. Let me add hashed password in here, okay? And paste that in there. Hit save. And let's try to create another user. So in here, let's go up here. This is going to be, name is going to be Johnny Boy. I have something with Johnny today. Email is going to be mambajamba@yahoo.com, and the password is gonna be, the password is gonna be ed cannot explain bcrypt. Okay, hit send, and after we hit send, as you can see down here, we got Johnny Boy Mamba Jamba, and here we have our hashed password. So actually the first few characters here would be the salt. So as you can see, we also have that 10 in there, and then it hashes your password. So it's actually two parts here going on. The salt is one part of the string in here, I think this part, and the hash password is gonna be this one. Okay, it kind of takes everything, puts them together, and makes it very hard for you to decode this. Okay, so we hashed the password, we saved the user, and everything seems to be better now. So now to make everything safe, let's go back here, refresh, and delete our users that don't have the hash password. So back here, let's take a look. All right, so this one's hashed, so let's get rid of these. Delete and delete. Perfect, and I believe this one as well. Okay. All right, so we have one with hashed password, and I'm actually gonna create another user so we can try the logging in. And I'm gonna keep this dev ed. We're gonna do the email eddierhino@yahoo.com, and the password is gonna be just super simple, rhino11, okay? Hit send, we're creating the new user. There we go, perfect. And here, maybe it's not a good idea to even send back this hash password, even though like theoretically, like it's very hard to break or for people to figure it out. But just to be safe, what you can do is rather than have the whole body here with the response, maybe you can just respond with the ID or something. So let's go back to our code. And when we create a new user here, let's go back here. So rather than sending the whole saved user, what you can do is you can just add an object here and just say user, and then you can add that user.id in there, okay? Hit save. Let's just make sure this works and create another one, but we're gonna use this one, so Eddie Rhino with Rhino. Just to do a quick example here, let's delete that, just Eddie, and just something random send. And now we're just sending back a user with the ID, okay? Perfect, so let's go back here with this one. And let's try to create a login. So here we have our post. Let me hide this to make more space. So we're doing the register, and down here, we're gonna do the login. So this is gonna be the login. This is gonna be router.post, so it's gonna still be a post /login. All right, we're gonna do request response again, like so. Okay, and let's kind of think of what we're gonna need. Well, we're gonna need that validation. So we made it here. All right, so we just need the email and the password. So we can pull that in our auth.js, login validation. Okay, and we can kind of just copy things from here up here. I'm gonna copy everything from here and paste it down here in the login. And I'm not gonna do register validation. I'm just gonna do login validation. All right, so everything should still work fine here. That's number one. Hit save. All right. The next thing that we are gonna need to check is if the email already exists in our database and if it's valid. So I think we can also copy that one. Let's take a look. Up here, all right, we can just get this one again and just copy it, paste it down here. All right, checking if the user is already in the, so here I'm checking if the email exists. Okay, and let me make sure everything is okay. So we're gonna do await user find one again, email request body. Okay, so if, and we can actually rename this to, not email exists. Let's rename this to, I mean, I guess we can keep it like this. If email exists, then, well, here we want to check not if the email exists, we want to check if the email doesn't exist. I'm going to add that exclamation point. So if it doesn't exist, then hey, send back a message here and say that email or password is just not okay. Email or password is wrong. Now you can do email doesn't exist if you want. Email doesn't exist, so you can either do that or email or password is wrong. If you want to do this, this is a bit more vague, but I mean, it's kind of a choice. Like I've seen some people do this just so like if someone tries to hack into your account, they don't know if like the email or the password is wrong. So you just give back a vague message. But it kind of depends on what you want to do. Okay, so hit save. So we are checking if the password, if the email is there or not. And after that, we need to check if password is correct. All right. And the way we can do that is, well, the thing is here that I actually need to get the password from this user. All right, so we're finding one user here. So I'm going to rename this to user because we're getting back the whole user. And I'm just saying if the user, all right, like that. So we're correcting it because I want to access user.password eventually to compare it with the hash password. Okay, so here what we can do is we can just say const valid pass. All right, we can check the valid password. And what we can do is say await, and we're going to use that bcrypt again. We can say bcrypt, and we can use something called compare. And we can compare the information that our user sends in. All right, so when they log in from the request body, and we can check that hash password from our database. So all we have to do is in here is to pass in the request.body.password, so the one we're sending when we're logging in, comma, and the user.password. All right, the hashed one from the database. Okay, and once we get this back, if the password is not valid, so we can just do if this is not valid, so if not valid pass, then we can return a res with a status of 400 and send a message with invalid password. Or I guess we can do email or password is wrong, so we can do that again. But for now, just for debugging and checking out in Postman, we can just do it here like so, just so we know everything works. Email is not found. Hit save. All right, so we are checking everything. And once everything is checked, I guess we can just send back a res.send. I'm just going to send back a string for now and say success or logged in. Okay, perfect. All right, let's take a look if this works. App crashed. No. All right, what's wrong? Well, await. It says that await is wrong here. And the reason why that is because we didn't add async up here. Okay, hit save. Now this should work. Okay, it works. So let's take a look here. Now we need to navigate to the login. So not register anymore. And let's go to login. Okay, we don't need the email, the name anymore, only the email and the password. We can check also if our validation works. Let's delete this. .com, hit send. Email must be valid. All right, so our thing works. Let's also make sure this works. Send. Password must be at least 6 characters long, so that works as well. Okay, now let's try to mess up our email. So I'm just gonna say Eddie, like that, send. Email is not found. So it tries to look up in our database. It's not gonna find it, and it's gonna send this error back. Okay, let's add this back, Rhino. And I'm gonna mess up the password this time. So I'm just gonna say something random, hit send. It's gonna say invalid password, so our password works as well. Now if I add this correctly, so the email and the password, hit send, we are getting back logged in. Whoa, there we go. Whew. All right, but we're not done yet. But I want you to be proud of yourself if you got to this part, and I want you to grab your water, take a break, 1 minute break, okay? Life is wonderful when things work. Okay. Now, what is the last step we need to do? Well, the last step would be to add a JWT token. And all that is right now when we make requests, so let's say we log in, and then when I want to make another request, let's say I want to post something, a blog post, or I want to post a message. Let's say we have a route with posting different posts. Okay, well, once I make that post, it doesn't know I logged in. So that's why we use JSonwebtokens. It's kind of like when you log in, you're gonna get a token, okay? And with that token, every time you make a request, you can show that token. And once it's shown, it knows that you're logged in, okay? So it's kind of like a little token that remembers that you're logged in, okay? So let's take a look on how we can add that. So that would be added in here. So right after we validate our password and we log in, here we would add that token. So what we can do is close this up, and we can just npm install. And this is called, let me make sure I get the package name correctly, JSON. So JSON web token, like so. Hit enter, wait for this to install. We can go back up here and we can just import it until this installs. We can say const JWT, I'm gonna use a shortcut here, and require JSON web token. Okay, down here, let's see, all right, so in our login, down here, let me close this up as well, just to make some space. Let's go back to our auth here. And what we can do is we can just create that token. Create and assign a token. Okay, we can just say const token, set this equal to jwt.sign. And what we need to do here is we can send along some information in that JWT token. So for now, let's just add, I'm gonna add the ID like so with the user ID. Make sure it's underscored there as well. So what you can do here is you can just pass in kind of some data, all right? And I'm just sending the user ID. So in your front end, in your code, you can, when you log in, you have access to this ID and you know that your user is logged in. So this is the thing kind of we're sending here. And the second argument that it takes is a random kind of a password thing, a secret. And this secret kind of lives in your dot environment. So here we can just create a token secret. So we can say token secret, and you can add anything in here. So I'm just gonna add something random like so. So we can access that on process.environment.token secret. All right, was that correct? Token secret. Okay, so we are creating this token, and then we can add it to our header. So we can say res.header, and in here we can add any name we want. So this is kind of an identifier. I'm just going to say auth token. And the second argument is going to be the token that we just made. And we can just kind of take this at the end and delete it. And I'm going to send back that token to the screen so we can see. All right. So this kind of looks weird as hell. I know, I'm sorry, but let's kind of go over this again. So let's just try to log in and see what happens. Okay. So rather than sending back that success, let's hit send. And now our code blocks. So let's take a look. We need to start this thing up, npm start. Oh my goodness. All right, up and running, perfect. Let's try this again. So hit send. And right now we are getting back this long string. All right, and we can copy this. And if you go to JWT token, not just JWT, and go into the first website .io, you can paste in your JWT token in here. So hit paste, and this is what you're gonna get here. You're gonna get a payload, and look at that, we are saving our user ID in here. So again, you can send this to your front-end code, and you can check that your user is logged in. And with that, now since you have that that token on your front end, you can make multiple requests. And since you have that token, it's going to remember that it's you. Okay, and even if you have private routes, which we're going to take a look at in a bit, you can verify that token. Okay, you can go to, maybe you try to post or something, and it's like, hey, you cannot post unless you're logged in. Well, I have this token. Ah, okay, well, what does that token say? Well, that token say that it's user 5C blah, 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 blah. Ah, okay, cool. User 5C can post. Perfect. And you can post under that user with this token. So that's kind of the thing that it does. But you might be thinking, okay, well, since we're saving this and we can access it, what if somebody just kind of messes around with this and they change it? So maybe they change the ID and they get access to my account. Well, not really, because there's two things here. If I try to change this ID, look at that, this code is also gonna change. So it's not gonna be valid anymore. And there's also a secret. Remember, we added a secret in here, the secret in here. So this, only our database, only our backend is gonna know about this secret. So if people try to mess around with that, well, it's not gonna work anymore. Oh, and also we have this IAT in here, which is pretty much saying when this was created, okay, the date. And we can also make this JWT token expire if we want. So we can only keep it for like an hour or something, and then you would have to log back in. But for now, let's just keep it like that. We assign it and we add it to our header and we send it. So now take a look in our headers. Now we have that auth token available here. All right, now let's take a look on how we can create private routes with this. Well, I would create a new folder here. So I'm just going to create a new folder. Actually, a new file. I apologize. I'm going to call this verify token, or you can call it private routes or something. Let's rename this .js. I forgot the extension. All right. I'm just going to bring in JWT here. I'm going to say require JSON web token. All right. I'm going to create a function here. And this is actually going to be a middleware function, and we can add it to routes that we want to be protected. So I'm going to say request, response, and next. All right, this is how you can create a middleware. And in here, let's name this auth or verify or something. And in here, we can just get that token from our header. So we can say const token equals to request. So it's going to be in our request.header, and we can check that auth token. All right, this is all it does. It checks if when we're sending a request, if it has that token. And if it does, or if it doesn't, so I'm going to check if it doesn't now, then we can return a res.status 401 here, and we can say send access denied. All right, that's all 401 is that a resource that we cannot access. Okay, after we do that, after we check, we can do a try and a catch here. Catch error. And in here, what we can do in our try, we can say const verified is equal to JWT, and we can verify that token. So JWT.verify the token, this one, okay, a comma, and we can do that process. We need to pass the secret in here, process dot environment dot, what was the name of it? It's token secret. Copy that, paste it in here. Perfect. And if we are verifying it, and if it's verified and everything is okay, we can add that to our user. So request.user is verified. And all it does here, so let's kind of take a look at what's happening here. And also here, let me just kind of send back a response status 400 dot send invalid token here. All right, so kind of what's happening here is we create a middleware function, and we can add this middleware function to any route we want. So any route we want to be protected or private, we don't want them to access it without having this token. Okay, so we created this function that checks if that user has that token. And remember, we assign that token when the user logs in. So when you log in, we set that token in the response header here. So res.header auth token with that token that gets generated when the user logs in. Okay, so now every private route that we're trying to access, we're going to add this function before it to check if this token is available. So what we're doing here is we say const token set is equal to request header auth token. So we're checking the name, right? So request header, because the name of that token lives on this auth token. All right, this is just a name we gave in here. All right, we could have named this anything we wanted, but we named it like this and we gave it the value. So here, what we do is we check, so we get the token of the request.header, and if this doesn't exist, well, it's gonna throw us back an error saying that, hey, you don't have a token, well, you don't have access, so access denied. Screw you, leave me alone. But if it has a token, well, then we can verify it. So that's what we're trying to do here. We're going to try to verify it. So we're going to create a variable here, verified, and we're going to set that equal to JWT.verify, which is just a method that JWT has. And you need to pass in the token, so the token that's coming from our request.header, and the secret, all right, that we created. And once it's verified, well, what this verify is going to throw us back is that ID, all right? That ID that we had in here. So if I show you, we're basically this one, all right? So that's what we're setting it equal to. So we get this payload back, all right? So request.user verified, perfect. And actually we have access to this as well, as far as I know. Okay, so once we do that, and here, if it's not verified, well, we just send back an invalid token. All right, that's it. And now the cool thing is we're going to have access to that request.user here in all of our code. Okay, so let's try to make a route private. Now we only have these two here, so the login and the register. But all right, that's fine. Let's just try to create a new one really quickly here. So new file, I'm gonna create a, what is this gonna be? Like, let's say posts.js here. All right, I'm kind of gonna copy multiple things from here. Let's do router. Let's get the router, paste it in here. And I'm gonna module export the router. I'll just create a route here. Okay, just something simple. Router dot get slash, just slash, okay, and request response. And here I'm just going to send back a res.json with posts with the title of, I don't know, my first post, and just maybe a description or something like that. Description, just some random data. Random data you shouldn't access without being logged in. Access, I cannot spell anymore, but there we go. I'm just gonna send back a response. So right now, we did this, so posts, and we can import it in here. So we're gonna say const post route is equal to require. All right, we're just gonna navigate again to routes and posts. And here, down here, where we have route middleware, we can just say app.use when our users navigate to /API/post, posts like that. Then we can use this post route. Okay, hit save and let's take a look. So now when we just navigate to posts, API/posts, we should get that post. API/posts. All right, and we go to get. Perfect. And just hit send. Let's go to the body here and take a look at that. We get back this information. All right, so the way you can make this private is actually very simple. We can go here to our verified token and we can export this. I'm just going to remove this off from here and just say module.exports and set it equal to this function, all right, that I'm exporting. Okay, so this is what we're exporting and we can bring it back anywhere we want. So if I want to make this route, this post route private, all I can do is just bring it in here. Const verify is equal to require /verify token. Okay, like that. And now all I can do is just add it right after this slash. So in here, we can actually add a middleware. So I can just add verify and that's it. That's all we need to do. Let's take a look. Hit send again, access denied. Very cool, doesn't work anymore. However, let's take a look on how we can make it work. We can go to API login. Let's go back to user login. All right, and this is going to be a post. With this information, hit send. All right, now we get this code. So our token, I'm going to copy this. And now if I go to the get again and go back to user /API/posts. All right, so this doesn't work again. But if I add that token in our header in here, so it's going to be auth token, and just give it the value of the logged in user and hit send. Well, let's take a look. It doesn't seem to work because we need to add next to continue to the next middleware and everything. So all you have to do is just go back here to the verified token. And after this, you just call next. All right. And then everything should work just fine. So in here, let's take a look. If we don't have the auth token, hit send, we have access denied. Once we have the auth token, there we go, we get back all of our posts. So there we go. And the cool thing here is that we can search that individual user's information or anything or posts if we want in here. Because with this, now what we can do is we have, remember, we set that token with the ID of the user. So now we have access. So let's take a look here. See, request user is with this token. So we have access to that user now. We can say res.send request.user. All right. And this should, as long as we provide this token, we should get that. So let's send and take a look at that. We have the ID and the data was created, the token. So take a look at that. Now with every request, we have access to that user. So if we want to find the user based on that token, we can just say we can get that user.find_by_1 or something, and we can just pass in the ID that's equal to the request.user, and that's gonna pull out information based on the individual users. All right, so that's very cool. And that's pretty much it. That's JSON Web Token, and that's how you can create private routes. Just create a middleware, and you can just pass it to the routes you want to be protected. So, oh my God, I'm sorry if I mumbled around too much. My voice hurts a bit, but that's kind of generally the whole idea. All right, there we go. I know I covered a lot of topics in this video. If you're very new to Node, I have like 2 videos on my channel, one with Node and one with creating a REST API for beginners. So take a look at those maybe, and then jump back to this one and see if you understand it a bit better. But hey, that's it for me. Hope you enjoyed this episode. I will be coming back later because I'm drinking so much energy drinks that I'm probably gonna start pumping out 3 videos a week. So, oh my goodness. All right, everybody, drop the subs, drop the bell, hit the bell. I don't know, what do you do with the bell? I have no idea. Okay, see you next time. Adios.